I never imagined a poor girl could inspire a millionaire's daughter to rediscover joy. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was gray and cold, the kind of day that makes the world feels heavy. I stood in the middle of the bustling park, my heart racing. Around me, laughter echoed, kids played, but all I could see was the emptiness in my own life. My name is Amy, and I've known pain in a way that leaves a mark. My mom used to say I was too sensitive for this brutal world. She'd sit me down, stroking my hair, her voice trembling, saying, "It's okay to feel, Amy. Just hold on." But she didn't hold on. She left us when the bills piled up too high. I remember staring at the eviction notice like it was a ghost, a constant reminder of our reality. Every morning was a struggle. I'd wake up to the sound of my stomach growling, and the memory of last night's dinner, the cold rice, the tasteless broth would weigh heavily on my mind. My clothes were worn, the fabric frayed at the edges. At school, the whispers cut deeper than any blade. "Look at her shoes. Does she even eat?" I would clench my fists, fighting back tears, but they wouldn't listen. This world was merciless, and then there was her Ella, the millionaire's daughter. Her life glittered like the diamonds that adorned her perfectly manicured fingers. She wore designer outfits and had everything handed to her on a silver platter. But standing there, dressed in my ragged clothes, I could feel our worlds were colliding. I wondered if she even knew what it was like to feel hunger or the shame of being poor. Her laughter floated toward me, but it felt far away, like it belonged to another universe. That day, I noticed something unusual. Ella was sitting alone, her eyes staring blankly at a vibrant kite soaring above the trees. A moment of stillness wrapped around her, a stark contrast to the chaos around us. In her heart, was there sadness she didn't know how to express. Her trembling hands held tightly to the smooth edge of her phone, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed like she was invisible, just like me. Tension cracked in the air, and I took a shaky step forward. What could she be feeling? Could she understand the gravity of a broken home? Just then, a sudden gust of wind sent the kite spiraling out of control. I gasped. I was rooted to the ground, witnessing the chaos. Ella's face paled, the flicker of panic in her eyes was almost palpable. Could this little event change everything? It felt like the universe had conspired to throw us together. Would her world finally crack open, revealing the vulnerabilities she tucked away so well? Would I find the courage to voice the pain I held inside? The question twisted in my gut as I glanced back at the kite, soaring higher, dancing with the clouds, a symbol of freedom I had long lost. And just like that, Elliot, her friend, dashed forward, a look of panic written across his face, and I felt my heart stop. What did that look mean? What if this moment changed everything for both of us? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ella's world, so bright and unattainable, was about to slip away, just like the kite. I could see Elliot rushing towards her, but for a split second, I felt an unexpected tug at my heart. Perhaps there was more to them than I had assumed. Perhaps she was more than just a golden princess living in a carved-out fairy tale of ease and comfort. The anxiety swirling inside me was palpable, a shadowy companion that had been with me through the toughest nights. But as I watched her struggle, I found myself wanting desperately to reach out, to connect, to find a thread that could pull us into each other's lives. Would it be possible? I wondered if there lay an overlooked beauty in this moment of vulnerability, some binding thread veiled by the chaos we routinely wore like masks. A quick glance back at Ella's face revealed worry dancing in her features. Just as Elliot was about to reach her, an unexpected rise of courage pushed me forward. I stumbled toward them, unsure of my own intentions, heart hammering in my chest like a prisoner trying to escape. Ella. The name slipped from my lips before I knew what I was doing. She turned, her eyes widening, perhaps surprised to see someone like me breaking through the invisible barriers. "Help it!" she cried, and I understood. The kite was still tangling and fighting against the wind. Without thinking, I sprinted the last few steps, feeling the cool air bite at my skin, and dove toward the struggling string. Working in tandem with Elliot, we managed to secure the kite, and as the three of us tugged gently on the string, a strange relief settled over us. Through the chaos, I saw something shift in Ella's eyes, a small glimmer of understanding perhaps. In this moment of shared struggle, the lines separating our worlds felt thinner. For every erratic pulse of energy in the wind, there was an equally fierce pulse of something rising within me. Hope. After the kite was safely grounded, we sat side by side on the grass, our hearts still racing from the unexpected thrill. I expected her to laugh and brush it off, but instead, she looked contemplative, the light in her eyes fading back to a dull troubled glow. Elliot's chatter about the kite's near demise faded into the background as I found myself wondering if I could bridge the chasm that had kept us apart for so long. "Amy," Ella finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper, "do you ever feel like you're stuck?" The weight of her question burrowed deep within me. I nodded slowly, surprised to see her expression soften. "Yeah," I managed, my voice trembling. "Every day." She opened her mouth, then closed it, clearly wrestling with her own turmoil. I had always perceived Ella as the embodiment of joy, yet here she sat, vulnerable in her heartbreak, a realization that was both freeing and terrifying. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her. The thoughts I had tucked away as a shield now pushed against the barriers I built around my heart, yearning to be expressed. She stammered, and I could see the struggle behind the facade of a perfect life. "You inspire me, you know. I've been just living, existing in this bubble." Her gaze lifted to meet mine, vulnerability spilling out in those simple words. "But sometimes I wonder what if I could break free." A kinship blossomed in that moment, even as doubts clouded my heart. Here was a spark of connection, yet also the reality that we lived in entirely different worlds. I was captivated, but my fear nagged at me, questioning if this was real or merely an illusion that would soon fade like the kite into the sky. "I feel the same way, Ella," I said softly, surprised by my boldness. "It's hard to see past everything when you're just trying to survive." Her silence felt thick, like a wound in the air where words had failed. Then, unexpectedly, Elliot stood, his posture shifting from anxious to suddenly determined. "Let us make a pact, you guys," he declared. "Let us help each other find joy. We need to meet again, no pressure, just to explore, share some fun, you know." In that fleeting instant, the prospect felt thrilling and overwhelming. Could our lives twist together in such a surprising way? But before I could respond, I caught a glimpse of something behind Ella, a private moment dissolving into chaos. Her personal assistant was waving frantically, confusion twisting his features. My heart sank. I sensed a looming storm on the horizon, something dark shadowing this budding connection. "Ella," the assistant called desperately, "your father's been looking for you. You need to come now." Ella's face paled, the color draining like a sunset swallowed by the night, and she glanced between me and Edwards, her eyes reflecting an abyss of uncertainty. There it was, that invisible wall being erected again. I have to go," she whispered, and with that, the moment we had fought so hard to carve for ourselves unraveled, transforming the flicker of connection into shadows once more. As she walked away, I felt an ache settle in my chest, wondering what just happened. Hope had just been ignited, but the world, as it always did, stood in the path, stubborn and unyielding. Could anything grow from such fragile beginnings? What would this change mean for both of us? Would we dare to challenge our realities, or would life push us back like it so often did? As those questions swirled, a new wave of uncertainty flooded my heart, leaving me staring at the place where she had been, the silence around me echoing louder than the laughter that still lingered in the air. Outside those walls, I could see Ella's car waiting, the darkened shape a stark reminder of the impending divide. My breath hitched. Had I just watched a glimpse of something fleeting, or was it the beginning of a story that could ripple across both our lives? And in the pit of my stomach, an unsettling thought formed: this connection, fragile and unmade, could all be snatched away before it even had a chance to grow. The air at the park grew heavy with the weight of what had been left unsaid. I remained where I sat, the sharp edges of uncertainty gnawing at me, while Elliot's animated chatter faded into an indistinct hum. My heart beat erratically, drawn to the fleeting glimpse of hope that had sparked between Ella and me, a possibility of connection that seemed impossibly fragile now that as Elliot lost himself in recounting the dramatic showdown between Ella and her assistant. I found my gaze drifting beyond him. The path she had taken seemed to pull at me with an almost magnetic force. In that moment, I realized how desperately I wanted to be part of her world, to wrap myself around those gilded corners and find the space where our lives could intersect more meaningfully. Yet, a creeping sense of dread reminded me of the barriers poised to obstruct that desire. "How about we go grab some ice cream?" Elliot suggested, dragging me back to the present. "Just to celebrate saving the most expensive kite in existence." He flashed me a grin, genuinely oblivious to the shadow that loomed over my heart. "Sure," I replied with a half-hearted smile, rising to my feet, but my mind was still lost in thoughts of Ella. I imagined her inside the luxury confines of those glossy car windows, her world peppered with expectations and the weight of a family legacy I could hardly comprehend. We strolled toward the ice cream stand, but with every step, I could feel the bitter aftertaste of uncertainty. Could I invite Ella into this simpler life? Did I even know how to approach someone like her? My thoughts were interrupted as Elliot's enthusiastic voice broke through my reverie. "Did you see her face when we got that kite down? It was like watching a painting come to life. She's amazing." His eyes sparkled with admiration. "We should really make sure she knows we're here for her. There must be something keeping her from being herself." He had a point. I knew well the constraints that weighed on individuals shaped by the lives they were born into, yet I also understood the dread of remaining trapped. My own experiences whispered to me about the tough journey of finding freedom, making connections, and crafting your narrative against all odds. Just as I was about to voice those thoughts, I caught sight of a familiar figure clad in dark designer clothing, standing alone near a grove of trees. Ella's assistant, face twisted in distress, was scanning the crowd, anxiety radiating from him like electricity. My heart raced. What was happening? "Hey, keep an eye on that guy, will you?" I said to Elliot, my instincts kicking in. "I'll be right back." I darted away, weaving through the throngs of families enjoying their day, instinctively moving towards Ella's ever-fading silhouette. I could feel my breath quicken as I approached her assistant, the urgency of the moment colliding with a desire to protect whatever fragile connection I might have established. As I neared, fleeting doubt clawed at me, urging me to turn back. What could I possibly say? Still, propelled by something deeper, I pressed on, stopping a few feet away. "Excuse me," I called out, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. The assistant turned, startled, and I could see his brow crease in confusion. "Can I help you?" I'm just trying to find Ella," I stammered, a sudden flood of inexplicable urgency coursing through me. "Is everything okay?" "No," he replied, the heaviness of his tone settling over me. "She's in trouble, serious trouble." My stomach dropped. "What kind of trouble?" He hesitated, glancing around as if the trees themselves might be listening. "Her father he's demanding she returns. And if she doesn't," his voice trailed off, the implication hanging in the air like a building storm. "What if she doesn't want to go?" I pressed, my heart pounding with every word. "What happens then?" The assistant looked genuinely pained, frustration mingling with concern. "If Ella defies him, there could be serious consequences. You have no idea how controlling he can be." The walls of my mind closed in. There was a whirlwind of emotions, a mix of indignation for Ella's plight, fear for what it might mean for her abilities to be her own person, and an all-consuming desire to protect that flicker of hope I'd experienced. "She deserves to be free," I managed, feeling the weight of those words almost like an oath. With the fluttering details of their lives swirling in my mind, I felt a sense of purpose ignite, a sharp clarity emerging amid the fog of uncertainty. I can help her. Whatever that means. The assistant's expression twisted between skepticism and a glimmer of hope. You think you can change things? She's lost in a cage of her father's making. She's been programmed to follow orders, to be the perfect daughter. Then let us make sure she knows she has choices, I replied, the urgency finally penetrating my confusion, and just as I was about to ask him what we could do, an unexpected voice interrupted our conversation. Amy? What are you doing? I turned abruptly, my heart lurching into my throat. Ella stood there, her eyes wide with bewilderment, a whirlwind of emotions flickering across her face. Behind her came an air of tension, a disconcerting resemblance to something I couldn't place, an amalgamation of fear and determination, like a wild storm held tightly at bay. Ella, I managed, dread creeping in, unsure of how to bridge the vastness of unspoken words between us. I was looking for you. Her eyes darted to her assistant, and in that fleeting moment, I saw the vulnerability etched beneath her polished exterior. The air crackled with unspoken tension, and I realized that our precarious connection had transformed into something more profound, a moment woven from the threads of rebellion. This is serious, she murmured, glancing back at her assistant. I can't go back home yet. Not like this. The resolute glance she threw over her shoulder ignited something fierce within me. Stepping closer, I took a breath, knowing that whatever lay ahead wouldn't just be a promise to seek joy, but a reckoning with the realities of our lives, our decisions woven tightly against a backdrop of unyielding expectations. What do we do? I whispered, heart hammering as the fear of the unknown swam in our shared gaze. Ella took a shallow breath, the flicker in her eyes swelling to something bold and fierce. We break the mold. As her words hung between us, the enormity of our choice settled in, colliding with the veil of uncertainty that enveloped our lives, shifting the ground beneath us just as I had feared. But as I looked into her determined gaze, despite the darkness, a ray of hope broke through, igniting a courage in me I had not expected, even as a storm loomed on the horizon, waiting to challenge the fragility of our newfound connection. The moment lingered, charged with an electrifying tension as we stood there, two very different people drawn together by an unyielding desire to break free from life's constraints. I could feel my heart in my throat, battling against the gravity of the situation, and yet, in that instant of connection, everything outside of us faded away. What do you mean, we break the mold? I prompted, my voice barely above a whisper, yet it echoed with the weight of promise. Ella shifted uncertainly on her feet, fidgeting as if weighing the gravity of her own words. I mean, I'm tired of living for everyone else. Tired of being the perfect daughter, the impeccable heiress. My life is not mine, it's been handed to me like a contract I never signed. If things are ever going to change, this is where it starts. The fire in her eyes was undeniable. It wasn't just defiance, it was a reckoning. Yet the shadows lurking behind her gaze warned that the journey would be perilous. Her assistant shifted, the tension thickening the air. Ella, this isn't just a game. Your father is not someone who lets go of control easily. You'll need to be cautious. No more caution, she replied, her voice steady. For once, I need to do something for me. And I think I need you. Her gaze caught mine, and for a heartbeat, the world vanished, leaving only that moment and its profound weight of intimacy. Me? I echoed, still stunned. Yes, because you remind me that there's more to life than what I've been shown. You see me, not the version everyone else wants me to be. I felt a wave of emotion crash against my chest, flooding me with warmth and fear simultaneously. The truth of her vulnerability settled deep in my bones. Yet, reality crept back in like a knife, a painful reminder of what loomed ahead. But what can I do? I'm just me. Just you is more than enough, she replied, conviction in her voice. You've already seen me, you've already helped bring joy back into what felt like a cage. We just have to keep moving forward. Together. Before I could respond, the moment unraveled itself. The assistant interrupted with urgency, pointing toward a group approaching the park's entrance. "Speak of the devil, Laura and Benjamin are coming. Your parents." Panic fluttered through me as Ella's face blanched, the bravery in her eyes momentarily dimmed by the surfacing reality of her father's influence. "I can't if they see me here," my instincts surged, my heart beating louder than logic as I urgently turned to her. "Then let us leave. We can figure it out somewhere else, away from here." She hesitated, torn between the remnants of her fear and the flicker of unresolved hope. "But what if I trust me, Ella?" I grasped her hand, a rush of energy surging between us, a lifeline in that swirling storm. "Let us go." We dashed down the path, side by side, hearts racing as we pursued the unknown. The sound of laughter from families around us faded into a dull hum, each flush of exhilaration mixed with fear propelling us forward. I couldn't help but steal glances at her, marveling at the soft determination gracing her features. It felt exhilarating, liberating, yet there lingered an undertow of uncertainty. Would this small act be enough against the tide that wanted to pull her back? We slipped through the park's exit and into the bustle of the nearby street, the scenery changing from tranquil greens to the vibrant chaos of city life. My mind was alive with possibilities, but they were quickly snuffed out by the harsh reality of the mountain we had yet to climb. "What now?" she asked, looking around as if trying to identify where we might safely land. "I don't know yet," I confessed, my heart twisting with a mix of fear and thrilling possibility. "But we just have to keep moving until we figure it out." Just then, a familiar face emerged from the crowd, someone I recognized but had never wanted to see, not now, not ever. It was Laura, Ella's mother, sharp and immaculate in a tailored suit, the embodiment of elegance and authority, and she was not alone. By her side, Benjamin, a stoic presence, his eyes scanning the crowd. "Ella." Laura's voice sliced through the air, an ice-cold clarion call that sent a jolt through me and made my blood run cold. "My God," Ella gasped, fear lacing her tone. I felt her grip on my hand tighten, knuckles white as we instinctively pressed closer together. "Run!" I urged, pulling her into the haze of the thronging street. My heart was a battle drum, pounding in my ears, but I remained steadfast, fueled by a burning need to shield her from the grasping hands of her past. That we ducked into a small cafe, the bell jingling softly as we hastily stepped inside. Ella's eyes darted around, taking in our surroundings, searching for a moment of calm among the chaos. "Breathe," I said, holding her shoulders gently, my heart pounding with the fear that had surged between us. "It's okay. Just breathe." But before she could steady her breath, I caught a glimpse of Laura's reflection in the window, a figure closing in with an unmistakable mixture of fury and fear. "Am I really going to let them take you?" I contemplated aloud, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on us. Ella's breath hitched. "I can't go back, Amy. I just can't," she pleaded, her voice shaking with raw vulnerability. Just then, the cafe door swung open boldly, revealing not only Laura but also a wave of fear and uncertainty crashing around us, and with it came an unexpected development, a figure I recognized, one that would turn our world upside down. "Ella! There you are!" shouted a voice I never expected to hear, and my heart raced anew, teetering on the edge of chaos, as a surprise I couldn't have fathomed threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew. The moment caught me by surprise, gripping my chest with a squeeze that left no room for breath. As I turned to see the familiar face, my heart rattled in its cage. It was Natasha, my childhood friend, someone whom I had lost touch with long ago. Her vibrant, untamed presence seemed to collide head-on with the oppressive air of the cafe. "Natasha?" Ella's voice trembled with a mixture of disbelief and hope, as if the mere sight of her was a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. "Ella! You're okay, I was so worried." Natasha rushed forward, oblivious to the looming shadows outside and the chilling presence of Laura behind her. She enveloped Ella in a tight embrace, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of the world felt lighter, but reality crashed back in hard as we all looked toward the door where Laura was now stepping inside, her gaze locking on Ella with a possessive force. "Ella, get away from her," her voice dripped with an authority that fit too easily against her persona of conceit and control that I could feel the energy in the room shift, a tangible tension enveloping us like fog. "This isn't helping, Natasha," I whispered, edging closer to Ella, intent on shielding her from the impending storm. Natasha's eyes flickered with confusion and concern. "What is going on?" "There's no time," I said, my heart racing. "We need to go before I said, "Get away from her." Laura's voice cut through the room, sharp and unyielding. The sound was like glass shattering, sinister and jarring. Benjamin moved to stand beside her, his gaze unreadable, yet the muscle in his jaw tensed as if bracing for a confrontation. Ella's grip on my hand tightened again. "I shouldn't have come here," she murmured, crushed between emotions as realization dawned on her. "Don't let them win," I urged, feeling the fear that had been a constant companion evolving into a fierce determination. "You're stronger than this." "Yes," Natasha exclaimed, suddenly finding her voice amidst the chaos. "You don't have to let them control your life anymore. You can stand up for yourself, Ella. Remember what we used to dream about when we were kids?" Her voice surged with warmth, determined to drown out the cold ruthlessness that Laura exuded. Ella's eyes sparkled for a fleeting moment, hope battling against years of dominance from her parents. I want to," she breathed, yet within her gaze, I detected the ghost of uncertainty. "Do it," Natasha added, the fire in her spirit igniting. "You've got this." Time seemed to stretch infinitely as we stood paralyzed by fear and hope. Laura approached, her heels clicking defiantly against the cafe's tiled floor, and I felt the oppressive weight of inevitability clawing its way back. "You are coming with me, Ella, now." In visceral instinct, I stepped forward, blocking Ella from her mother's advance. "No. She's her own person. Get out of my way." Laura snapped at me, the wrath behind her eyes palpable, but as I stood my ground, a flicker caught my peripheral vision. Natasha had moved closer to Ella, standing beside her, a vibrant rebel against the looming darkness of privilege. "Let her go. She deserves to make her own choices, not be a pawn in your game anymore," she declared, every word dropping like a stone. The room was a cacophony of emotions, conflicted, desperate, and charged with a longing for freedom. Ella's breath came in quick bursts, her fear battling her newfound resolve. "I've spent my whole life living for you," she said, her voice wavering yet steadying, "and I'm done with it. I want freedom, I want to choose my own path." For a split second, the world held its breath. Laura's expression seemed to fracture, her poised facade cracking under the weight of Ella's declaration. "You'll regret this, my dear," she warned, her voice low and measured. "You do not know what you are doing." "Maybe not," Ella replied, a newfound strength wrapping around her words as she straightened her spine. "But I'm starting to find out who I truly am, and I want to go back." The air was electric, igniting within me a flicker of hope but also a surge of dread. What would be the consequences of Ella's brave declaration? And just as we stood on the precipice of liberation, I felt a sudden tremor of panic ripple through the cafe. The door burst open again with force, sending a shudder through the atmosphere. An unfamiliar figure stepped into our midst, drawing all eyes, an authoritative presence dressed in dark clothing that exuded an aura of undeniable power. "Is there a problem here?" the newcomer inquired, voice cool and composed, but there was something unsettling in their gaze. I looked at Ella, our moment of hope now hanging by a thread, the thin line between freedom and control wavering amidst the shadows that seemed to seep in through the cracks. Who are you?" Ella's voice quaked with trepidation. "Let's just say," the stranger said, a faint smirk playing at their lips, "I'm here to assist in making sure you don't make any choices you'll regret." My heart sank. The moment of freedom we had fought so hard for felt like it was slipping away even before it began. As dread enveloped the cafe, I grasped Ella's hand tighter, bracing against whatever storm was to come. This battle was far from over. The air in the cafe turned thick with trepidation, a suffocating tension as I realized that this newcomer, cloaked in mystery and wrapped in authority, could trigger the first domino in our fragile tower of hope. The dim lighting flickered, as if the universe was conspiring against us, but Ella's intensity seemed to grow brighter, battling the encroaching shadows. Assist? Laura echoed, narrowing her eyes toward the stranger. And who gave you the right to intervene? The stranger maintained a calm demeanor, their gaze flitting from Laura to Ella, as if sizing up the situation. It's in everyone's best interest to prevent a hasty decision when it comes to matters of the heart and mind, they replied coolly, their indifference toward Laura's authority sending a ripple of unease. I'm simply here to ensure that Ella understands the gravity of her choice. I felt Ella's body stiffen beside me, her breath hitching as the weight of the situation bore down upon her. You don't know me, she said, though the tremor in her voice belied her bravado. I know what I want. Do you? The stranger stepped forward, brushing aside Natasha as they moved closer, eyes unwavering. What do you truly want, Ella? To throw away everything you've built, every comfort your family has provided? To step into the unknown with no safety net? I could see the whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions ravaging Ella's spirit. I squeezed her hand tighter, a silent reminder that I was by her side, reinforcing the sanctuary of our friendship against the chaos outside. You're not alone, Ella, I murmured, projecting all the conviction I could muster. Natasha, emboldened by the moment, took a step closer to Ella. You're stronger than they think. You have so much to give, and you deserve a chance to choose your own happiness. Yet the stranger raised a hand, silencing the room, and I felt the intensity shift as if they were an immovable force. The concept of happiness is subjective. Think carefully, Ella. You are standing on the edge of everything you've ever known. Maybe that's exactly where I want to be, Ella fired back, her voice gaining momentum. Hope surged again in the space between us, luminous yet vulnerable, like a candle fighting against the wind. Maybe being comfortable isn't what I want anymore. The unexpected kindness of Natasha's presence, the solidarity of my hand in hers, and the flicker of rebellious spirit fueled by her memories of childhood dreams became a force field against the darkness encroaching upon us. Beyond the walls of the cafe, the wind howled like a banshee, almost reflecting the internal storm brewing within Ella, turfing untamed emotions to the surface, but as Ella's strength built, a flicker of uncertainty crept in. What if they were right? What were the true consequences of breaking free? With each question, the weight of her upbringing threatened to pull her back down into the depths of doubt. Ella, Laura whispered, her voice dripping with an eerie calm that contrasted against the storm outside. Her facade was cracking but still formidable, like a tense string stretched to its breaking point. You need to understand that this is for your own good. The world can be cruel to those unaware of their place in it. Is it cruel to want to find joy in who I am? Ella countered, her voice trembling but filled with purpose. Is it cruel to want the freedom to discover myself? Before Laura could respond, an unexpected warmth enveloped the room as an older woman not much older than us took a step forward from behind the stranger. Her hair, silver and flowing, framed her face softly, and her eyes glistened with kindness that reached deep into the fear coursing through us. Ella, life is about choices, and you deserve to choose for yourself if you want to create a life that truly belongs to you. The woman's resolve and compassion cast a soft glow amidst the shadows, infecting our frightened hearts with a sense of hope that sparked a movement within Ella. I want to try, she breathed, her determination building again like a flame being fanned, a voice emerging from somewhere deep within. That's more than many ever dare to do, the silver-haired woman encouraged. It's about time you gave yourself the life you deserve. Suddenly, with heightened urgency, a ringing phone shattered the silence. The stranger's expression shifted, an unsettling flicker crossing their face as they retrieved the device. A moment, they said curtly, turning slightly to converse in hushed tones. This sudden distraction allowed us to confront the turmoil lingering in our hearts once again. Ella, what do we do? I prompted, my thoughts racing alongside the fluttering of her heart. We can't back down now. Can't we? Ella whispered shakily, her gaze glued to the stranger's back. What if this was all too much? What if I fail? Failure isn't the end, it's a part of the journey, Natasha reminded her, locking eyes in solidarity. And if you fall? You're surrounded by people who care about you and believe in your strength. But just as we found our footing, the stranger turned back to us, their eyes dark and piercing. Your choices have consequences, Ella. Be careful what paths you pursue. You might find that freedom comes at a higher price than you know. And at that very moment, as dread unfurled in the pit of my stomach, Ella's expression shifted to one of steely resolve. Yet beneath it, I could see the flicker of fear return. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the silver-haired woman shot me a look of warning as though the tension in the air was a precursor to something monumental. What we had ignited could easily be extinguished by the forces swarming around us. Without warning, the door swung open for a third time, and just like that, our fragile moment of unity faced a devastating new threat. As the shadow of the new arrival swept in, an ominous chill filled the room, a deep sense of foreboding wrapping around us like a shroud. This time, it was another figure from Ella's past, a face I had never expected to see again, but one that loomed larger than life, cementing the notion that this battle was far from over. Why are you all here? The newcomer asked, their voice slicing through the air with an unsettling familiarity that made my heart race. My breath quickened, knowing deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. And somewhere among our swirling emotions, I dared to believe that this tangled web of friendship and defiance could indeed become a story worth telling. It was still too early to see the outcome. A daunting ghost of uncertainty loomed overhead, acting as a portent of what was about to come. The tension in the cafe deepened as the new arrival stepped into the dim light, brushing droplets of rain from their coat. Alex, the name came rushing back like a caught breath. I hardly recognized the boy who used to race me on the playground, now transformed into an enigma clad in designer clothing and an air of self-importance. His presence twisted the knife of uncertainty deeper into Ella's resolve. What is going on here? He directed his question at Laura, his tone slightly dismissive as he brushed past her, his gaze locking onto Ella with a mixture of concern and a hint of something darker, caution, maybe. Ella, you shouldn't be caught up in these discussions. You know how they can get. His words were laced with a familiar arrogance that sent a shiver through the cafe's thin walls. The air grew thick with suspended silence as if the moment held its breath, waiting for some inevitable eruption. I can make my own choices, Alex, Ella replied, her voice stronger than before. But even as she spoke, I could see the tremor beneath her defiance. This was a ghost from the past, and I feared what memories he would dredge up. Can you? He challenged, a twisted smile creeping across his lips. You call this freedom? What do you think you'll gain by running away from everything you've worked for? You're a fool to risk it all for, what? A taste of independence? Ella straightened, drawing strength from the fierce heat of anger in her heart. It's not running away, it's choosing to live, she shot back, her voice charged with an electricity that rippled through the group. Even Natasha's eyes gleamed with admiration, but I could see a shadow of doubt shaking free from the corner of Ella's spirit. Why do you care? Natasha interjected, her protective instinct kicking in. You weren't concerned when you left her behind for your upper-crust life. Because I know what can happen when people don't understand the consequences of their decisions, Alex said, his gaze flickering between Ella and the others as if trying to gauge our strengths and weaknesses. And you, Ella, the last thing you need is more people giving you false hope. A chill swept through the room, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was closer to the truth than any of us wanted to admit. What did life look like for those who ventured beyond their comfort zones? Was it just a Pandora's box of regret, or could it lead to unimagined joy? The silver-haired woman's voice broke through the swirling emotions, soft but firm. Everyone deserves a chance to discover the life that feels right for them, Alex. And breaking free is part of that exploration. But Alex dismissed her words with a flick of his wrist. And what would you know about that? You're not the one risking it all. His gaze then landed firmly back on Ella, and I could see the flicker of doubt grow in her eyes. You have everything at your fingertips. Don't throw it away. Ella's expression wavered. You don't get to decide what matters to me. Not anymore, she asserted, but it lacked the conviction it had moments ago. Suddenly, the tension in the room escalated as the outsider, a person who seemed to have arrived with their own agenda, stepped closer, setting the stage for a confrontation bigger than our fears and dreams. You think you have all the answers, don't you? They taunted, their face shrouded in shadows. You think you can protect her? There are forces at work here that you can't possibly imagine. Just leave her alone. I yelled, a surge of protectiveness washing over me. The room felt charged with electricity, as if we were teetering on the brink of something monumental. What do you want from her? But before I could process the mounting tension, Ella whispered, Josie. My heart sank at the frail look etched across her features. Her courage was waning, and Alex was a relentless storm, threatening to drag her back under. I in the flickering candlelight, the new arrival leaned in closer, whispering something that only Ella could hear. Whatever it was, it painted her face in shades of horror. I reached for her arm, desperate to pull her back from the precipice of fear. Ella, don't listen to them, I urged, my heart pounding in my chest. You choose who you want to be. Don't let the past narrow your vision. Her eyes darted between me, Alex, and the stranger, caught in a tempest of confusion, searching for an anchor. Then, just as the weight of indecision threatened to crush her spirit, the silver-haired woman spoke again, her voice steady. Remember, Ella. Your strength lies in your choices. Don't ever forget that. But as I held Ella's gaze, a sharp realization struck me, an overwhelming sense of urgency. The cafe walls seemed to close in around us, and a crack opened in the fabric of our reality. A chilling thought materialized in my mind. What if this moment the choice she needed to make would lead to a place she could never return from? And that poignant fear was etched into her expression as she took a step back, aligning her body with Alex's imposing figure, torn between the chains of her past and the unseen promise of her future. The room felt like it was fading, the cafe dissolving around us as the weight of decisions loomed heavy in the air. Ella, I said, desperation creeping into my voice. But the door swung open again, the wind gusting in like a vengeful spirit, and with it came another face, one I never thought I'd see again. One that bore the anguish of choices unmade. Ella, I need to talk to you. It's important, came a voice that sent shockwaves through my resolve. It was her father. The weight of the world fell upon our shoulders as he stepped into the cafe, the final thread of our universe unraveling before our eyes. A collision of lives and choices stood before us, the promise of hope now hanging precariously in the balance. The moment Ella's father entered the cafe, the atmosphere shifted dramatically, almost as if the air itself recoiled from the tension. His face, lined with years of worry and unspoken regrets, was a stark contrast to the polished bravado that Alex embodied. The shock was instantaneous, reverberating through the small group like ripples in a pond disturbed by a sudden splash. Dad? Ella's voice trembled as she took a tentative step forward, drawn to him as if by an invisible string. In that instant, all the bravado, all the air of independence she had recently donned, seemed to drain away, leaving behind a vulnerable girl caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Ella, please, we need to talk. Just us, he insisted, his voice a mixture of urgency and desperation that sliced through the chatter of the cafe patrons. Eyes turned, drinks were set down, gossip metamorphosed into a heavy silence, each person anchoring themselves to the unfolding drama. As he approached, Alex moved protectively in front of Ella. What do you want? He demanded, the arrogance seeping back into his voice, standing as a barrier between her and the father who had been absent for too long. Yes, right, you should leave, Natasha chimed in, anger lighting her eyes. She squared her shoulders, ready to defend Ella against the very man who had caused her pain. You don't get to waltz back in here and think you have a right to decide what she does or who she talks to. Natasha, stop. Ella's shout cut through the tension, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and frustration. She turned back to her father, vulnerability etching itself deeper into her expression. What do you want from me? You just left me. I didn't leave you by choice. He stepped forward, the weight of his words anchoring Ella in place. I had to make sacrifices for our family, for you, for the life that you've now grown accustomed to. I thought I was doing what was best, but I see now I was wrong. His admission hung in the air, raw and untamed, the truth resonating with everyone who had felt unworthy or misplaced. Ella's gaze flickered back to me, desperate, uncertain. Behind her expression was a tempest of emotions that threatened to pull her apart, love, anger, and a fraying thread of hope that his return might mean something different this time. Look, I made mistakes, I can't change that, her father continued, holding her gaze fiercely. But you have to understand, your happiness is the most important thing to me. I know you're trying to find your own path, but there's danger out there, and I want to protect you. Protection? Ella interrupted, her voice rising. By abandoning me? You really think that's what I need? I can't just follow what you or anyone else wants anymore. I want to pave my own way. Why can't you see that? The force of her words caught him off guard. He faltered, searching for some way to reach her. Ella, please, just come home. We can talk. Whatever this is, it's not safe for you. You don't understand the real world. You were better off before. I know it. Behind her, I could almost feel Alex shift uncomfortably, unease radiating from him, yet his facade remained intact. He cast a sidelong glance at me, perhaps seeking solidarity in a moment that had spiraled into chaos. But my thoughts were fixed on Ella, on her search for purpose and identity amidst the weight of expectation. We can't go back, Dad, Ella pleaded, her voice breaking. I've been trying to find myself, and I thought I was getting there, but then you show up, and it feels like I'm just this scared little girl again. I don't want that. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring anything that resembled her previous confidence. A flicker of regret crossed her father's face, and perhaps he understood, for a heartbeat, the chasm his decisions had created. Then let me help you. Let us meet halfway. There's so much. Before he could finish, the stranger from before cut into the moment, their voice ominous and mocking. This is precious, really. But Ella, you're stuck in between. Do you really think he has your best interests at heart? Enough! I shouted, stepping forward, unwilling to let anyone tear her down further. This is not about him, it's about what Ella needs. She doesn't need a father who wades into her life when it's convenient. But my words barely registered as Ella seemed lost in the whirlwind of her father and Alex, caught in the web of old grievances and unfulfilled dreams. In that moment, the cafe felt like it might shatter under the weight of her choices and emotions, and then, as a gust of wind accompanied by rain re-entered the cafe, a small, trembling hand reached from the shadows near the door. An unexpected arrival, an elderly woman in a tattered coat, a neighbor from Ella's childhood who had seen too much and yet bore wisdom in her sagging eyes. Ella, dear, she murmured, stepping further into the light. I know your heart is heavy, but you must listen to it, not those who wear masks of authority. Our collective gaze shifted to the newcomer, a fresh voice now part of the cacophony. But just as Ella opened her mouth to respond, a sharp, heart-stopping scream echoed from outside, a sound that transcended the cafe, pulling us into a reality shaded by fear and potential danger. Ella! Get down! I shouted instinctively, but it was too late. Chaos erupted, the cafe door bursting open violently. Panic spread like wildfire as shadows surged past, and in that moment, everything that had been carefully crafted shattered. Ella, standing at the center of it all, faced a new horizon, a choice not just between past and future but now also survival. The echo of uncertainty lingered as we braced ourselves for whatever storm awaited, ready to unravel everything we thought we understood. Ella's heart raced, each beat a gallant drum against the cacophony that surrounded her. The scream had cut through the tension like a knife, and now the cafe was erupting into chaos. Customers scrambled for the exit as fear painted panic-stricken faces, and the air thickened with the acrid scent of spilled coffee and uncertainty. Get down! I shouted again, and before I had the chance to process if she'd heard, I lunged toward Ella, pulling her behind a nearby table. Alex quickly followed, his bravado diminished, replaced by instinct to protect her. Amidst the confusion, I caught a glimpse of the elderly woman, her frail form rooted beside the door, eyes darting as if trying to assess the torrent of bodies. "Ella!" She called out, but her voice, though firm, was nearly swallowed by the surge of people disarrayed by panic. Ella's eyes were wide, reflecting a swirl of emotions: fear, confusion, and deep resolve. "This isn't what I wanted," she cried out, almost collapsing under the weight of her outcry, yet the world continued to spiral around her. "Focus, Ella," I urged, feeling the oppressive weight of the crisis push in on us. "We'll figure this out together." The words slipped from my lips, an assurance I desperately wished were true. My hand tightened on hers, ready to pull her away from the chaos if needed. Time seemed to stretch, drowning in the panic and disarray, but then everything shifted as the figure, not a stranger after all, stumbled through the door, clad in a long coat splattered with rain. It was a police officer, their presence commanding an immediate hush. "Everyone stay calm," the officer barked, voice firm but laced with the unmistakable urgency of authority. "We need to evacuate the building. A threat has been reported nearby." The crowd surged toward the exit like a wave, but something tethered Ella to that spot. Perhaps it was the frail woman, or perhaps it was the lingering confrontation with her father that loomed heavy over her heart. "I can't just leave him," she yelled, her gaze darting back to where her father stood, expression contorted between desperation and the dawning realization of his past mistakes. "Ella, it's not safe," Alex urged, his arm instinctively moving around her waist as he tried to draw her away from the growing chaos. But her eyes held steady on her father, each moment pregnant with emotion and unspoken words. A rolling sound erupted from outside, faint, but menacing. A barrage of sirens blared through the streets just beyond the cafe walls, deepening the tension. "They'll be fine. We have to go," I insisted, but Ella's gaze remained rooted, unwilling to abandon her father to face whatever consequences awaited him. "Stay here with me," she yelled back at me, the determination brewing like a storm within her. I watched helplessly as she broke away from our group, moving toward the door with a resolve that felt both brave and reckless. "Ella, no." My heart dropped as I reached out, but it was too late. She was by her father, fear and hope weaving in the spaces between them as he reached out, both of them equally lost and searching. "Let us go," the officer shouted again, and I turned to Alex, torn between wanting to race after Ella and the duty to follow the officer's command. A deep pang of anxiety twisted in my chest at the thought of leaving her behind. "Ella!" I shouted, but the noise outside only grew louder. The elderly woman stood still, her eyes clear and wise despite the pandemonium. "Ella will find her way," she whispered, and I wasn't sure if she spoke it for my benefit or for herself. Ella turned, meeting my gaze with a fierce intensity before she was swallowed back into the shadows of the cafe. "You have to trust me," she shouted over the noise, her father at her side, both of them poised between danger and the invisible ties of family history. As the officers guided the last of the patrons out, I felt a sharp tug of indecision. Do I follow the officer's path of safety, or do I plunge into the chaos behind that door where Ella might need me most? Just as I turned to make a decision, a figure emerged from the crowd, a man, face streaked with rain and fear. The old woman cried out, as recognition washed over her. "Henry!" she gasped, her voice a blend of shock and joy mingled with dread. That name struck me like a bolt of lightning, and the world around me dimmed. Ella's father didn't just have his own history with Ella, there was a connection lurking behind the man standing before us, eyes filled with undeniable recognition. My heart raced, a new level of fear spiraling within me. "What do you mean, Henry?" I asked, confusion sharp against the fear rising around us. But before he could respond, the chaotic sounds from outside escalated, cries mixed with despair, urgent footsteps pounding against the pavement. It was clear something was terribly wrong, much graver than any of us anticipated. Ella stood within the storm of uncertainty and strife, her choice hanging heavy above her like a dark cloud, and I could only watch as destiny loomed large, ready to unfold the complicated tapestry of our lives in ways I could never have imagined. As the storm approached, a chilling realization set in: the world we had known was about to shift, and amidst that chaos lay secrets that could change everything. Would Ella still want to reclaim her joy if all she'd ever known crumbled beneath her feet? The chaos swirled around us, a tempest of emotions and unresolved histories crashing like waves against the shore. In that cacophony of uncertainty, my heart raced, clawing at the remnants of my own fears. Ella had stood at the precipice of a choice, her father a looming shadow, relentless in reminding her of the chains she sought to shed. I fought the urge to scream, to run after her and pull her back from the whirlwind. But how could I make her see? Ella! I shouted again, terror clawing at my insides as I watched her tremble, caught between a father seeking to control and the life she craved to reclaim. "Let me go!" she cried, her voice raw with a turbulence that mirrored my own. "I need to make my own choices. You don't understand the danger, Ella." Her father's voice broke through, filled with desperation. I caught a glimpse of uncertainty in her eyes, mingling with the defiance that had bloomed so fiercely moments before, threatening to choke on the reality surrounding us. The old woman with the silver hair stepped forward, her presence remarkably calming amidst the growing chaos. "You have to decide who you are, dear," she murmured, her voice a balm against the mounting fears. "Whose life do you want to live, yours or someone else's?" But as her father stepped closer, the gravity of his control loomed, heavy and suffocating. "Don't let them fill your mind with lies," he said, eyes wide with a raw desperation. "I'm here for you, Ella. I came back to protect you." And in that moment, I saw it, a flicker of vulnerability shining through her confusion, an opening that threatened to pull her back into the world she was desperate to escape. "You never protected me," she shouted, the pent-up anguish breaking free like a flood. "You put me in a cage where I felt unloved and alone." "Ella, no!" she shouted once more, the fire of her spirit igniting brilliantly, even amidst the shadows threatening to engulf it. Turning to me, her gaze burned with a fierce resolve beneath the fear. "I need to decide, Amy. Together, we've seen the possibilities of joy, of freedom. You taught me it's okay to feel, but the choice has to be mine." The world narrowed, everything but that moment fading to gray. I stepped closer, heart pounding in sync with hers. "Ella, whatever you choose, know that you are not alone. You can fight, you can run, you can scream, even if it means confronting the truth." But her gaze flickered back to her father, torn, a silent plea for assurance in a storm of uncertainty. Just as I reached for her hand, caught in the swell of turmoil, Alex intervened, pushing forward protectively. "This is your chance, Ella," he commanded, a hint of softness creeping into his tone once he caught her conflicted expression. "Don't waste it. You think you're here to make decisions for my daughter?" Her father shot back, fury rising in his tone as he pressed against the barrier of authority he wore so tightly. "She needs my guidance now, not the ramblings of a child who never grew up." The old woman squared her shoulders, looking like a beacon of strength amidst the raging storm. "She needs to find her own path, Henry. You can't keep stifling her desires just because it's convenient for you." In that fragile moment, Ella's breath trembled, a mixture of frustration and realization. If she chose to face her father, his demands and expectations, would it choke the last flickers of hope she began to harbor? Or would this moment solidify her right to choose? "I'll call the police," someone muttered from the crowd, panic slicing through the air like a knife. But suddenly, the crescendo of chaos dulled as the rain poured in through the open door. The storm that embraced us was both bittersweet and haunting, a reflection of our emotions. "Ella," I urged, my voice breaking with raw urgency. "You have the power to choose now. Don't let this slip away." Her gaze met mine, a tempest brewing in those stormy eyes, a fierce, determined light overshadowing the flickering ember of fear. I choose me," she whispered, a soft clenching of her fists tightening around that long-sought resolution. At that moment, the air crackled with transformative energy, the weight of silence enveloping our small universe. I choose to break free from the expectations that have cloaked my entire existence. Ella's voice rang out like a triumphant battle cry, a courageous roar defying the oppressive authority that bound her. I won't let anyone dictate where my joy should come from. And as those words washed over the room, it was as though an invisible chain snapped and shattered. My heart soared in that fragile moment, and I stepped forward, weaving my fingers through hers, a talisman of support as our worlds collided and reshaped. Ella stood tall, a stark silhouette against the chaos, reclaiming her identity as an undeniable force in a world intent on bending her to its will. Just as her father opened his mouth to launch another retort, another voice rose from behind, carrying a warmth that cut through the tension. It's time for the past to make amends. The elderly woman stepped forward again. You both deserve the chance to find closure, a path built on understanding rather than fear. And in footsteps laced with courage, she approached. Henry, you failed her when she needed you most, but perhaps it's not too late. She deserves a father who respects her choices. My heart raced, feeling the gravity of the past crash against the promise of a new dawn. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the moment that would unravel the tangled threads of their lives and weave them into something resilient, something beautiful. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I watched Ella and her father's eyes search for that connection, something lost long ago amid silence and resentment. Finally, Henry took a deep, shaky breath and stepped toward her. I'm sorry, he murmured, a cracked whisper nearly lost among the tumult. I didn't protect you, Ella, and for that, I regret every moment. And just like that, I saw the glimmering of possibility that could still illuminate their shared darkness. A new path forged from vulnerability, understanding, and the power of forgiveness, a choice unmade transforming into a moment of acceptance. With a tremor, Ella stepped closer to her father, the years of pain unfurling before them like petals of a blooming flower. I'm scared, Dad, she admitted, tears cascading down her cheeks. But I need you to let go of my choices. And in that silence bound by desperation, hope began to emerge anew. Beneath the remnants of fear, the flicker of love echoed softly, resonating deeply. The warmth radiating between them sparked a kind of healing, a mending that grew as they faced the remnants of their wounds and the chance to rebuild their relationship. Finally, as the adrenaline subsided and the gravity of the moment unveiled a new reality, I held my breath. Their gazes intertwined, a soft understanding sparking in their eyes, a shared destiny, a bridge that could guide them through the uncertainty together, and as it unfolded, the air shimmered with a possibility renewed. It was a gentle push towards acceptance, the acceptance of their truths, the acceptance of each other. In that cafe filled with renewed resolve and the swirling shadows of the past, I felt changes ripple outward. With every step that unfolded, we stood witness to the dawning of something extraordinary, a story born from pain, yet transformed into the promise of connection that knew no bounds. Turning away from the chaos and toward the light, I grasped Ella's hand, feeling the warmth between us, a reminder that true joy comes from choices made, battles fought, and hearts that dare to love fiercely despite the consequences. In that moment, I knew we were on the edge of something monumental, not just for ourselves, but for those bound to us through connections we didn't yet understand. Ella, I breathed, squeezing her hand, let us walk away from here, together. And amidst the echoes of laughter, sparking hope, and the present coursing with heartache, under a sky that whispered of new beginnings, I could finally feel the tentative blossoming of joy emerging from the past, unfurling like petals in the warmth of dawn, because in this fragile tapestry of life, love, and the choices we embrace, the threads of destiny wove us as a family finding its way back home. And the beautiful truth settled within me, amid the storms that once raged, new paths could still emerge, bright with the promise of freedom, love, and liberation. As we stepped into the light, my heart soared with the hopeful truth that one voice, a life resolute, could shift the course of fate, and here we would begin again. Let us go, Amy, she said softly, and together, we broke free, intrepid explorers ready to dance into the dawn of an uncharted tomorrow.